Well, for his take on the trading day that was, we're joined by David Bosio from Shaw and Partners, live out of Perth. David, good to see you there, and congratulations on the Euro Cup. That was a good result there. Let's go and talk iron ore. You're an expert in this field. I want to get down to the nitty gritty about the big three: BHP, Rio, and Fortescue. What are you expecting from the full year results coming up in August?
Yeah, so far it's been pretty well received across the board. We're still sitting on an iron ore price which is very, very solid at around 217 US. So we've seen in the outlook for BHP very, very solid numbers, really driven by iron ore, and their guidance for financial year 22 also looks very, very strong, where they see small increases in the iron ore business as well, which again goes in stark contrast to what many people are suggesting for the iron ore price. Rio unfortunately have had some struggles. Production and sales has been lower than expected, and that's weighed on them a little bit, but we see Fortescue being I guess the standout in the sector, looking very much forward to what their earnings and in particular dividends are going to look like. It's a sea of cash out there for these guys at the moment, and I guess the challenge for them is to really manage the cost side of the business. Labour, COVID, big impacts on the cost side. So that's something to look out for.
Yeah, what are the expectations when it comes to the capital management, particularly from Fortescue? A lot of people are looking at that dividend, and it is huge compared to what we're seeing with other investment opportunities out there around. So what's your expectation there?
Yeah, I can't see a world where this isn't a massive dividend. It's going to be significant, but with all cyclicals, and resources are cyclicals, you do need to be wary of buying them solely for the yield. Obviously, their earnings are at their highest would indicate that if we're at the peak, then the trough will follow, and that will obviously impact yields, etc., going forward. But they're in a particularly good environment at the moment, and we would expect capital management across all of the star performers to be significant. I think we'd expect the yield to be extremely strong, albeit it may come down to what the guidance, messaging and communications look like as to how investors react. Interestingly enough, with BHP, they also have flagged an exit from their energy business, and this is an interesting one. And one thing we've seen with a company like BHP is that they often will reward shareholders in the event of asset divestment. So if they do exit that business successfully in the future, investors may be the recipient of, say, a special dividend, something of that nature. And again, that is something that investors, retail and institutional alike, really, really like. They love those divvies. They love the franking credits that come with them. So that may be a theme going into the second half of this year.
Yeah, that divestment's really interesting because a lot of people got very excited earlier in the week about that deal signed with Tesla, but then for nickel supply. Now, only a very small component in BHP's earnings at this point, but of course it does have optionalities to go and maybe pursue that further.
I think so. I think it just demonstrates, a company like BHP, it's diversified across energy, being obviously conventional energy as well as their coal businesses. They've got the iron ore, they've got copper, and they've got battery metals, which lots of people think of graphite, lithium for battery metals, but copper and nickel are as important, if not more important, in battery technology. So their ability to just switch on those sorts of deals is just phenomenal, and I think it's going to see that business remain extremely relevant, irrespective of, say, how iron ore itself travels over the next 12 to 24 months.
Given BHP's relative portfolio relative to, say, Fortescue, where does it sit when it comes to those iron ore miners in terms of preference? Do you have one there at Shaw and Partners?
Yeah, we've our analyst Peter O'Connor, who frequents the channel, he's across all of them, and I think BHP's probably been one of the standouts. Our view, as I've mentioned on many occasions, has been relatively cautious, if not slightly soft, in terms of the long-term iron ore price, and that obviously plays into the valuations for many of these companies. But something like BHP, we've got a price target of probably around 10% higher than where we are today. I think the last price of BHP, we're travelling circa $51 at the moment, and our price recommendation is around $56 on that stock at the moment, and that probably factors in some of the diverse income streams that the company does have across various commodities. Something like Fortescue, obviously, you look at it on a valuation perspective based on how it's travelling, it does look very, very attractive, albeit it is completely leveraged to the iron ore price itself. So depending on one's view of where iron ore is going, that's obviously going to be a big contributor to the future of Fortescue and obviously its share price.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, let's go and finish off in the gold space. Of course, Northern Star Evolution Mining announcing a trade of $400 million for an asset from the former to the latter. Now, looking at the share price performance today, Northern Star is being hammered and Evolution is one of the top performers. Is that a good assessment the market's giving us to the relative winner of that deal?
Well, I think it's an interesting one. I think Northern Star had a very good day yesterday, so they're giving back some of those gains from yesterday. But I do think the market's looked at this quite objectively. And again, our initial view on this transaction is quite a sensible one for Evolution. So take out the transaction price itself, which was considerable, $400 million. But take that out of the equation. What it meant for Evolution was they're buying some nearology in terms of assets around their existing Kalgoorlie operations, and it actually lifts their head grade significantly. So at the moment, their operations in that region are producing at low 1 gram dirt, which is reasonably marginal and high cost in many instances. Now, the ore or the projects that they've acquired now off Northern Star have a head grade of around 4 gram per tonne, with a significant amount of those ounces in reserves. Now that lifts a significant that grade significantly across all of the assets for Evolution. So that makes a material difference and a material benefit for their operations in that region. So it's a big tick from them. If you look at Northern Star, they're coming off a significant merger with Saracen. So that was a big transaction. They've had to digest a lot of different parts to that business, but they've got some tier 1 assets now. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, with these bigger companies, as they grow, they look to basically hive off some of the, let's call it, more mature assets or lower margin assets, and they keep looking to add more quality assets and tier 1 assets. So what this represents for Northern Star is a significant cash boost. It's $400 million of cash straight to their balance sheet. Helps them to potentially strengthen the balance sheet, either retire debt or give them some more cash to pursue either more project generation within their existing portfolio or potentially acquisitions themselves of new tier 1 opportunities. So I think long term it's going to be good for both of these companies, and the history books will determine, but I think it's a good transaction.
Yeah, David, you mentioned when we last spoke, there's just so many new explorers coming into the market in the gold space at the moment. I asked them a lot, what's your expectation around M&A? And every single one was like, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of M&A activity. So we will see what the future holds. Thanks for joining us on the program yet again, and you enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, David.